Hello, Wake Up New Zealand, Carol Sakey speaking. Well, any of you that are right-wing, alt-right, white supremacists with brown faces, time for you to leave the room. But I advise you to stay here and listen to what I have to say. Well, what the UN has reported to UN member states, including New Zealand government or corporation, whatever you want to call it, they're not letting you know. And Ardern keeps on with her Christchurch Call, where the government is targeting people who oppose their authoritarian, draconian narratives of socialist left-wing communist degrowth of this country to destroy our country. Law-abiding citizens are still being targeted. And it's still talked about this hate speech, etc., incitement to hate speech, the tyranny of human rights, revolutionary minor groups to actually make New Zealand a frail nation, which can be highly inflicted by terrorist groups. So going on to the UN and their report, the UN Security Council, the 9th of August 2023, that was only last month, as they talk about ISIL and Daesh. It's all recorded and reported, affiliating as exploiting conflict and non-conflictual areas throughout the world. This was a UN Security Resolution report, the exploiting fueling of extremism that went out to all UN nation states. The 17th report referring to Daesh exploiting conflict dynamics and governance frailties. And it talks about the frailties during COVID-19 restrictions, the mandates where people are denied their basic human rights. And it gives a UN resolution number here to refer to. And it's called the ISIL strategy, as populations are mandated, severely restricted. As to ISIL strategy using overlapping global challenges of crisis, catalyzing and spreading of terrorism, violent extremism of Daesh as authoritarian governments target right-wing white supremacist groups. This is what they're doing while this is going on. But we don't hear anything about this. So we're talking about anyone who is Christian, anyone who opposes the government, anyone who opposes socialism, anyone who is conservative, anyone who is loyal to their country, patriot to their country. Well, you're being targeted. Your cell phones are being censored, are being targeted. They are censoring you. So while this is going on, so we're talking about the UN post that was documented, UN document being Daesh S 2022-576, exploring our conflict dynamics, governance fragilities, rating a plan and organizing terrorist attacks, controlling the flow of funds to enable Daesh short-term and long-term plans. Daesh Financial Action Task Force to finance terrorism, violent extremism, and during the emergence of the global pandemic, using this to their advantage, exploiting trade, human trafficking, natural resources, as they gain billions of dollars, billions of rand from Africa, eliciting gold mines to to support the Daesh ISIL terrorism across the world. And the UN are calling for an all-of-UN approach as to the threat of jihad growing day by day. This was August last month, 2023, reporting that Daesh, ISIL, Al-Qaeda, and Taliban connections, referring to the Congo, Mozambique being human slaughterhouses, the mobilizing of finance to Daesh, and only 5 geopolitical regions on the African continent are unaffected by this. So investigating journalists report on how much Daesh and ISIL and their associates are actually robbing Africa of this wealth of gold mining to finance their extremist, cruel jihadists' killings, the maiming of people, the suicide bombings. So Daesh, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Taliban connections to human slaughterhouses in Mozambique, Congo. 6 billion rand. So 12th of August 2023, threat of Daesh, ISIL, UN Resolution 2253, UN Security Council, their military strategy, a strategy that's a strategic threat updated from the previous 4 months, and ongoing reports are called for by the UN Security Council as to the gravity and the level of Daesh, ISIL associate attacks worldwide for UN nation states to actually counter the threat. Last month. So the 17th UN Security Council report was proposed by the Analytical Support and Sanctions Monitoring Team of the UN Security Council, established their reporting by, they've been reporting since 2004, and this is their 17th report. And Resolution 1526 was the first one as to global terrorism coordination compact entities, documenting that first half of 2023, the threat posed to international peace and security by Daesh and associates remained at high level in conflict and non-conflictual areas of the world. It's a long-standing threat. So New Zealand's authoritarian state, socialist left wing with communist traits, we're not informed of this, and we still get the Christchurch Call with Jacinda Ardern as she travels the world with this, and there is still talk of incitement to hate speech around right-wing extremism and white supremacy, even white supremacy of brown faces and white privilege, to divide and conquer our nation, to weaken our nation, to try and stop us from standing up to this authoritarian state that is de-industrializing, taking down our economy, destroying our children's lives by their ideology around sexology that's going on in the schools right now. This grooming, sexual grooming of our children, all is involved, all these minor revolutionary groups, the co-governance, the climate gloom and doom groups, activists, Extinction Rebellion that's worked with the Auckland City Council, Black Lives Matter, that are never, ever arrested that go by the wayside. And the Posey Parker protest, where people were actually threatened, were hurt, while police stood by with their rainbow bracelets on. This is what's happening. And yet they ignore what the UN has announced and documented only last month. So the Royal Inquiry into the Christchurch attacks, there were 15 community questions to the Royal Commission of Inquiry around this. One of those questions was to the Muslim community. The question posed was, were you fearful of anyone, any group, any individual prior to the 15th of March 2019? And the response was, yes, Daesh. Daesh at the time of Ramadan, because it's well known that certain sects of Muslim groups, Sunni, Shia, they absolutely hate each other. And one attacks the other. Up to the time of Daesh, it is recorded worldwide where thousands of people, Muslim people, have been attacked, bombed, suicide bombed, etc. through this Daesh, through many ISIL groups. So, Christchurch attack, let's go on about this. So, Daesh attacks, ISIL attacks, full on in Turkey, when Tarrant went there. And he went there multiple times, and he stayed there for extended times. He was comfortable enough. Well, tourist agencies were saying, this is a high-risk warning. Westerners are not safe in Turkey because of kidnappings, suicide bombings, bloodbaths. That's what they were saying. But Tarrant just kept on going there and staying there for extended stays. He went to other places. He went to Iceland. He went to Poland. He went to Pakistan. He went to the Ukraine, and he went to North Korea. So, what's going on here? Red flags should be flying. So, Turkey is known as a multi-billion-dollar tourist industry, a target for ISIL, for Daesh. And the tourist agencies warn of blood-soaked mayhem, the kidnapping of westernized citizens, the car hijacking. So we should all be concerned. Then there was the police with their tabletop exercise in October 2018, a lone wolf attack on worshippers at this very same mosque that was attacked. And then the police with their crisis, what were they doing in that day in Christchurch? They were doing some sort of drive around crisis and attacks around Christchurch. There was some police manoeuvres going on. Without looking at it, I know that there was police manoeuvres going on, and some of those police were called to see to Tarrant. That is another red flag. So let's look at this. And they said that Tarrant wasn't on the list. He had a legal gun license. He had several firearms. He had a shotgun. But he had been to the hospital, he'd shot himself, and still off the radar. And then you've got the Lowry Institute report from Australia that the Kayak brothers that were on trial in Australia for an alleged attempted bomb attack on an airliner and on behalf of representing ISIS, with a brother that's fighting for ISIS in Syria and two nephews that have been killed fighting for ISIS in Syria, was completely undetected, were not even on the radar. None of their activities, no history. They weren't placed on a watch list. So you should be going, oh, what's going on here? It's definitely an attack on New Zealand citizens who are holding to account a socialist, left-wing, Nazi-type government that mandate citizens from going to see loved ones, to going to loved ones' funerals, to saying their last goodbyes to their loved ones, to mandating jabs and saying, no, that was their choice. No, it was not their choice. And when I saw that documentary on the sit-ins and Parliament Square, Parliament grounds, I thought, this can't be New Zealand. It is a New Zealand. And as Yamini said when he visited, and he had on his T-shirt, Kia ora, North Korea, he couldn't be more right. So every one of us need to stand up against this government, this corporation that is controlling New Zealand lives, because every one of those politicians stayed in Parliament while there were people grieving, New Zealanders grieving outside, had lost loved ones, had lost jobs, had lost businesses, and even more, those that were traumatised. Not one of those political cronies came out of Parliament. And they certainly didn't let you know that there is a global threat by ISIS, by Daesh, did they? And they didn't let you know that the Muslims in Christchurch were frightened of Daesh, not right-wing extremism, not white supremacy, not white supremacy with brown faces. So you lot, you can leave the room now. You've got the message. Let's keep waking New Zealand up. Let's stand up. Let's publicly speak out about this. Wake up, New Zealand.